Welcome to the latest edition of Republic Podcast. I am Rakshita Mishra with you, and today in our studios we have a living legend, Leander Paes, and welcome to the show, Leander. And it's a great honor to have someone of your stature here in the studios and to, in fact, today share a lot of your insights about tennis and beyond the court as well.
Thanks, Rakshita. It's my honor to be here.
Thank you. And, yes, we are going to talk about tennis, but right now, I think you are in chill mode. Are you, after retirement? Or what would you say? You're always in chill mode. Well, we've seen that. You've always been this very flamboyant and energetic, and, we've seen you even, playing the Davis Cup. I remember in your 40s, the kind of energy you had, and you still have that sort of, vivaciousness. Where do you derive this energy from?
I think from my genetics, both my parents, both of them were thorough patriots. Mom's jersey number was number 5 when she captained India in basketball. Dad's jersey number was number 10 when he played the center half of the national hockey team, and they went on to win the Munich Olympics. So everything that drives me and my passion is about the Tiranga. It's about our people. It's about 1.4 billion people, and 39 years of playing professional tennis was all about that. For me, playing for Davis Cup, playing in the Olympics, playing in the Asian Games meant a lot more than playing on the world rankings. For me, that drove me a lot more when I played for the people.
You said you're playing for the people. Do you miss those years? Do you still sometimes when you look at the court, and do you feel like the French Open is going on? Do you look at those matches and you feel like, I wish I was there?
No, not at all.
No?
My 39 years is a very long time. The average career span of an athlete who's been blessed is about 18 years, 19 years. To be able to play beyond 20 years and then to push it to close to 40 years it takes a lot of mental aptitude. It takes a lot of pain management. It takes a lot of loneliness management. It takes a lot of reinventing yourself. For me, I am so blessed to have had an amazing team through the 39 years. My father was my doctor. He was my guru. He was my mentor. But then all my coaches, my physiotherapists, my trainers, my fitness trainers, my mental health coaches, there are so many people that are responsible for becoming who I have become. And to all of them are the ones that I bow my head in gratitude, because they gave up time with their families to put India on the global map. They gave time away from their families to put me on the global map. So a tremendous sense of gratitude for all those people that played a huge role in my life.
So a lot goes behind the making of a legend, isn't it?
You need a whole army. The saying is true.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, if you have a career of a decade, 10 years, then you go through generally about one team. When you have a career of 2 decades and 3 decades, and then you push it into the 4th decade, that takes a lot. That takes reinvention. A lot of my peers, when I started out in the mid-80s, had retired by the late 90s. And then we pushed it into the 2000s, and then we pushed it into 2019, which was the last Grand Slam I played at the Australian Open, 2019. And playing over 100 Grand Slams it takes a lot of work, and I've been very blessed for that. But also the systematic reinvention of the training program, the systematic reinvention of sleep patterns, circadian rhythms, diet, training methods, because also the game evolves. Just the tennis ball itself, the size of the tennis ball or the pressure in the tennis ball had evolved so much over those 4 decades. And it's not just about just being a rubber tennis ball with felt on it, but when it's traveling at 240 miles an hour and the ball's coming at you with topspin and underspin and slice and all these different spins, to pick up the different trajectory of the ball, to pick up the different spins, the speeds that the opponents would hit it at, took a lot of hard work. I also found that over the span of my career, the physicality of the athletes and the height of the tennis players just grew in leaps and bounds. So the average height of a tennis player in the 80s was 6'1", 90s 6'2". By the time I retired in 2019, the average height was 6'4". I'm 5'11" on a good day. So it took a lot of work.
Yeah. So, when you started, Lee, there was no heritage of tennis as such. There weren't, in India at least, there were not anyone to look up to. So what really inspired you? Because I heard that you were interested in football, actually.
Yes, I guess growing up with Bengali Hindu genes in Calcutta, and growing up with Portuguese Christian genes from my father's side, from Goa, football was obvious. Bengal and Goa are both very rich in football culture. And also being born with these big, massive legs, I was quite fast. And I could control a football. Even today, it's my number one sport. So to watch La Liga, to watch Champions League, to watch the EPL, football will always be my number one sport. That being said, I had to make a calculated decision in 1986 that whether I could replicate my parents and my father in getting to the Olympics as a footballer. And I realized that no, that would be a tough task coming from India. So hence I switched sports. I switched sport to a sport that I'm not so talented at. I switched sports to a sport that I didn't have the height for. But I think with a lot of passion, a lot of hard work, building a great team around you, 10,000 hours, 3 million perfect repetitions in 10 years, you can master anything. And that's what we believe in our philosophy in the family, is that muscle memory and brain mapping. If you put in the time and you put in those repetitions, those 3 million repetitions, over years, you can really withstand the pressure when you're on center court at Wimbledon, or withstand the human mind playing tricks with you when you're at the Olympics and people say you can never win an Olympic medal. It's not been done before you, so aapka aukaat kya hai? And that muscle memory, that brain mapping, that self-belief came with a lot of hard work, came with a lot of early mornings, long hours, loneliness, putting the time in the gym or on the track. But to achieve anything, you need to go through that. So, yeah.
You mentioned loneliness twice. So what is it like when you say loneliness of an athlete, or maybe in tennis? Or
You see, yeah, I play an individual sport.
Yes.
When you're playing a team sport, you either have, in a basketball team, you have 4 other guys on the court,
Yeah.
and you have about 15 guys traveling with you. When you play cricket or football or hockey, which have 11 people on the field, you've got 10 other guys on the field. So if you're having a bad day, you can pass the ball to the other guy and they'll take it down the track. Or if you don't score in a certain day as a batsman, you've got 9 other guys that'll come through for you. Whereas in tennis, you don't have that luxury. You can't look around and say, partner, yours. When I played doubles or mixed doubles, yes. But when I was doing it in singles, you basically are alone on that court. And you got to go out there and over 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours of a match. The mental competition and the physical competition against your opponent was one-on-one. And that's the beauty of it. That even when you're in a team of 2 people, you got to be that differentiator. And that's how I was brought up. So the travel also, when you look at a sport like tennis coming from a country like India, the cost effectiveness of having an entourage was just not possible. You don't have the financial backing or the funding or the support or the sponsorship to have 2 people or 3 people, or nowadays entourages of the top players have about 7, 8, 10 people deep. Whereas when I was traveling on the tour, there were nights I had to sleep in locker rooms or nights I had to sleep in stadiums because one didn't have the foreign currency or the money to sleep in a hotel. And I think that builds a lot of hunger, that builds a burning deep desire and passion inside one's belly to succeed. And I think that's what's really needed today.
And you feel that there has been a lot that has changed in you because you're talking about muscle memory and you have that hunger. So you remember it all because you're telling me right now after decades you still remember and you're putting it out so articulately. Has it redefined your personality in terms of this impact of a sport on you and your life?
100%. I think that for every human being, the journey of life impacts you who you are. And the beauty of sport as an athlete is that you learn to handle defeats with a lot of grace. You learn to handle triumph with a lot of grace. And yet, treat those 2 imposters just the same. And in that, the journey of the career of an athlete is so long that the euphoria of winning or the depression of losing is not something you dwell in. It defines your character, defines your personality. And I think that's the beauty of sport, where you learn the nuances of life. Travel was my classroom. Stadiums were my curriculum. Or playing and learning from the coaches and the trainers. And even learning from a loss was massive. It wasn't a loss. It was a learning process. And I think that's why one got to win.
How do you deal with loss?
Objectively, as soon as I finished a match, the first thing I did was to go and shower off and get into my cool down routine, which was stretching and ice baths and food and fluids and replenishment. But while one was eating or replenishing one's electrolytes, one would be sitting with one's coach, because the coaches would keep, back in the day, we would write in diaries. Nowadays, it's a lot of tech and AI and digital analysis. But you sit with the analysis and you see, okay, how many double faults did I hit? How many aces did I hit? How many unforced errors did I have today? How many winners did I have today? And you work back on the strategy for each match and see how you implemented that strategy under pressure. So the objectiveness of which way I conducted my career speaks for itself in the results that I have. Playing 7 Olympics takes a lot of reinvention, because with the Olympics being every 4 years, I had promised my dad as a young boy, as a 7-8-year-old young little Indian kid, that I'd play 4 Olympics. And he said, I think you can play more. And that really motivated me as a 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old. Before I could even comprehend what it would take to even participate in an Olympics, my sights were on emulating my father. In winning India, its individual Olympic medal, its first medal in tennis. I feel like I've been very blessed as an athlete. I've been very blessed as a son of the soil because of the magnitude of support I got. You know, to sit here with you today and have this Hall of Fame shirt on. This Hall of Fame induction belongs to all of India. It belongs to every single Indian on the planet who supported me through my 39-year career. And I'm very grateful, very humbled, and also very driven now to build the grassroots of Indian sport.
Yes.
To play my little role in that.
I'll come to that, but you mentioned you're the first Indian to be inducted in the International Hall of Fame, and of course it makes everybody proud, every Indian proud when we see you there, when we saw you there, and you've won the Wimbledon, the Junior Wimbledon, the Olympics as well, but we are such a big country and a young country. Why do you think that don't you think that our tally could be much bigger? And if not, why isn't happening?
I love your enthusiasm for getting better.
We all do. I think we all want to
But
get
I also
there.
think that it takes a process. 10,000 hours, 3 million perfect repetitions of each stroke will take 10 years. And it's very unique that we're talking about it now, 11 years away from 2036, the Olympics that we're going to bid for. And in that, it took me 10 to 12 years to master my craft, because I was switching from football to tennis. And in that, it's not just about the strokes of tennis. It's not just about the physicality that it takes to be an athlete in a sport that takes so much of physicality. The power, the agility, the movement, the flexibility, the ability to get to a ball that's thrown into your deep forehand corner in a defensive position and then turn it into offense. You see Djokovic do that so beautifully today. You see Alcaraz do that so beautifully today. And in that, I think it also takes the mental aptitude. So when you look at the Hall of Fame, the induction was very special for me because I was able to take my dad there, able to take my siblings there, we're able to take my first coaches and my trainers and my physios and my travel companion, Sanjay Singh and Dave Herman and Ricky Leach and Dave O'Meara and the whole team, Jimmy Dicker and all the boys that were there. But to celebrate that Hall of Fame with all of India is where the magic's at. Yeah. Because for me, I've always wanted to be that one person who inspires generations to be champions in their field. Not just in the field of tennis, not just in the field of sport, but in life, to be champions of life.
Yes, you are a champion, and we want more of champions like you, especially in tennis when we talk about. We're making forays in many other sports as well. We've done really well in the previous 2 editions of Olympics, and we've had new icons emerging. But when it comes to tennis, what do you think, where are we missing? Do you feel that this growth has slowed down?
I think the growth has not been focused to the grassroots. I think we can learn a lot from cricket. We can learn a lot from what the BCCI have done for cricket in the rural areas in really popularizing a sport. I feel that from when I won my Olympic medal in '96, in an individual sport. From there, it created an avalanche of individual athletes winning, whether it was in shooting with Chili Rathore, whether it was in boxing, whether it was in badminton with Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu, whether it is in so many multiple sports, all the way now to a good old Neeraj Chopra, who's one of my favorites, to win in a sport of javelin, which India is not even known for. And that's magical. I think when you look at all the other sports other than cricket, in my humble opinion, we do very well to focus on the feeder system, on the grassroots. And that is why, through my learnings of being a second generation Olympic athlete in the family, and that sports science background that Baba has, or that sports medicine and sports genetics, and the philosophy of 10,000 hours and 3 million repetitions in 10 years, to focus on 250 million children over the next 15 years in all the Olympic sports, to create that grassroots and that feeder system to get out to the rural areas, because गांव में तो बच्चे लोग को मौका नहीं मिलता है खेलने के लिए, पढ़ाई का भी मौका नहीं मिलता है, तो स्पोर्ट्स एजुकेशन कहाँ से मिले? So it's our job to go down to the villages and to the panchayats and to the gaon and to the rural areas to take opportunity there. India is a very large country geographically, a very large population. If I had to answer the question just specific on tennis, which is my sport, the game has grown so much in the 90s when I was winning Grand Slams and winning Olympic medals. But today, where is the feeder system? There is none. None. Not even a little bit. And to me, that's a very worrying prospect for the next 5 years. I think it's going to take another 10 years, 10 to 12 years, to nurture Grand Slam champions, to nurture Olympic athletes. And not just खाली participation के लिए, मगर जीतने के लिए, पोडियम पे खड़े होने के लिए.
To make them, world beaters.
हाँ, तिरंगा ऊपर करने के लिए. That is the magic. The magic is not just to send a team of 100 delegates to the Olympics, but to come back with more than 7 Olympic medals like we did in Tokyo. I think that's the magic. And in that, I must compliment Khelo India. I must compliment Kiran Rijiju. I must compliment Mansukh Bhai, who's now taken over, who is working so fastidiously hard to empower the youth. So for me, I feel like that whole Khelo India movement would do really well to create Olympic centers around the country. If I had to put it in an idealistic, optimistic way, I would love to have 5 Olympic centers throughout the country: north, south, east, west, and central. And in each academy, have 100,000 children training through professional sports science, sports medicine, mental health, emotional health, and then bring in the coaches who specifically can train technique in each discipline. And in that, make that a Khelo India Olympic Academy. I think in that, if we create a broader base at the grassroots, we create a broader reach into the panchayats, into the rural areas, into the villages and the gaons. When we look at the Western world, scouting talent becomes so important. Looking at geographical genetics, looking at a child's DNA or a child's blood work and minerals and vitamins and protein levels and fluid intake and diet and all of those things make such a big difference. If I look at just a collegiate athlete in America, whether it's at UCLA or at Harvard or at Stanford or at Virginia Tech or at USC, those athletes get millions of dollars pumped into them in their academies or in their colleges per child. So I think, like I say, it takes an army to develop a champion. I think in India, what my passion is now is to work along with this Khelo India movement and to work along with the people who are in charge to develop a broader base and a wider base of athletes playing sport.
And that's what you're doing, I think, post-retirement. You're working on the centers?
Yes, I've just started my first Olympic center. It's at the Kalinga Institute in Bhubaneswar in Odisha. And it started way back with the local chief minister, Mr. Naveen Patnaik, who is someone I admire a lot for the hard work that he's put in to his state, to his people. And also for Dr. Achutya Samanta, who started this Kalinga Institute and also the KIIT and KISS program, where he doesn't just deal with the local children there, but he also deals with the tribal children through KISS. So my respect for Dr. Samantha and for his team is to go and bring my father and my knowledge of sports science, of how to develop champions, of how to develop champions of life, is where I'm at. We've got 80,000 children there.
Wow.
We've got 20,000 staff there. And we're on that journey to build India's next generation, starting from there. From there, being the first, then I want to go around the nation through sports education to empower the youth.
You feel, because you were talking about how, the facilities that the athletes abroad get and other countries get, I'm sure you do have realized maybe that things have changed a lot since when you started, and now there are facilities, the infrastructure has, you were talking about how we have now a javelin throw champion, so on and so forth. There was this lot of debate over what Prakash Padukone said about, players also taking some responsibility when it comes to Olympics. I mean, he's of course from badminton, but what do you make of things when this, there's always this debate of, players are getting a lot of exposure now. They also need to take accountability that, that where is my medal? Why did I miss out on that? What is your take on that?
Rashida, where I come from is I realize that the infrastructure in India has grown a lot. Stadiums, playing fields, playing surfaces, gymnasiums have grown a lot. But when it comes to testing of a young child, testing their DNA, testing their physical and mental makeup, to then even scout them of which sport they should go into, we don't do that. So if you have someone who's 5 feet 11, are you going to put them into swimming or basketball or tennis? Or if someone is 6 foot 3, are you going to put them into football or kho-kho or kabaddi or badminton? I think the scouting of talent is where it first starts. I'm talking about sports science. I'm talking about sports medicine. I'm talking about mental health, emotional health. Let's not forget that in the 80s and 90s when I was playing, the mental makeup of an Indian athlete was supposed to be submissive.
Yeah.
I think we changed that.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the modern Indian athlete, are rugged and tough. I feel so proud of all our female athletes.
Yes.
Whether it started with P.T. Usha and then Saina Nehwal and P.V. Sindhu. Look at our cricket girls, how beautifully they represent us on the world stage.
Yes.
When we look at our hockey girls, when we look at our tennis players, when we look at the female athletes out there, the boxers, how well they represent our country. And in that, I feel like equal opportunity for girls just as for boys. I feel like equal investment for girls as just for boys. I also feel that the conversation that I'm trying to bring to the table is professionalism and sports science to develop champions for life. Which means, even if we say, hypothetically, 10% of all our athletes are going to be on the podium, those are huge numbers. But what about the other 90%? Are they going to get jobs back into the system where they get certification for sports management, sports education, PE teachers, sports medicine, sports science, sports physiotherapy? What about managing stadiums, managing events, managing athletes, sports journalism? We've discussed so much during Davis Cup, where we did our first interview together back in when Rafa Nadal came, when we played against Spain.
Yeah.
So I remember you from then, and look how beautifully you've grown. Could we have another 100,000 Rakshitas out there who realize that human equity is actually where the true business is at? So I think sport as a subject goes beyond just a podium. It goes beyond just winning world championships or winning Wimbledon or winning the Olympics. Yes, that's the top of the pyramid. But when you look at the ecosystem of sport, you could literally move the GDP of a nation through sport. You can empower generations of athletes through sport. The inclusivity of sport means that now in Orissa, with all the young kids that we have there, which come from 22 different countries, but also they come from tribals. So hence to be able to make such a large difference is a great passion of mine. It's my second innings, and I am very, very grateful for the opportunity to work with and to work under people who are also patriots, who have a desire to empower a nation through sport.
And right now, if you could ask you again, how's the second innings going right now? Like a champion's mind would never be at rest, of course.
I'm lucky I get to balance all my responsibilities. It's great to have this opportunity to be able to look after my parents who are aging at the moment. I spend weekends with them in Calcutta looking after them. But then Monday to Friday is traveling around the world, empowering youth and dealing with issues of logistics and management of stadiums and curriculums, and looking at athletes who want advice about how they can overcome the obstacles that they face. So in that, there's just so much of opportunity in the business of sport. So I'm very grateful for that, and I'm very driven that, God willing, if we do win the 2036 Olympics, or even if we don't, the point is to prepare our athletes to win many medals. In the next 11 years, if we say each generation is 8 years, that'll give us about 8.5 years. That'll give us a generation and a half, rather. That if we can empower the youth through sport over the next 15 years, I think that'll be a magical way to live life.
You mentioned about building the youth power in sports. There's a lot of scrutiny today. You know, because you've also faced a lot of media scrutiny. Today, you have the social media also. There's a lot of criticism, a lot of trolling, hashtags go viral and whatnot. You know, you can just make one statement, one video can just go viral, and, you know, people can judge you left, right, and center. I think that's another, case in point for the athletes of this generation. How do you see that, and what would you like to, in fact, advise the youngsters on that?
I'm a little old school. I grew up in an era that did not have the digital media or did not have social media. And in that, the conversations and human equity was what really mattered. That being said, I've learned to evolve. I've learned to use my platform to empower. I've learned to use my platform to live by example. But I guess, guys, in my era, we lived very real. What you see is what you get. The pressures that the youngsters go through today of social media and of peer pressure and of keeping up with what we call the Joneses is really tough. Scrutiny, living in a fishbowl environment, every decision you make or even don't make is judged. And in that, I feel for them. Every situation is different, but I think the magic is about staying true to yourself. Nowadays, in the social media footprint, you live a life that you're watched all the time, you're heard all the time. And if you live by those principles, then you conduct yourself in a way that is very true to you, very real. So then you don't have to watch your back. You can be you, unapologetically and real. And in that, I think that inspiring the world through positivity is a lot more long-lasting and leaves a much deeper impact than living a life of make-believe, because it's unsustainable. So I think the youngsters, I really feel for them, for all the peer pressure they have, of all the social media scrutiny that they have. The public's always got that behind-the-scenes scoop of how you live, or, what you do in your day-to-day life. But just keep it real, have fun with it. We live one life, right? And if we're blessed, we live it for 75 years really well. And in that, when I look at both the champions in my house, my mom and my dad, quality of life is more important than quantity of life. So live life well. You have one chance to live it well. Do it the best you can. Inspire people by who you are. Have fun with what you do.
So how do you have fun? What's your day like these days after
A
retirement?
little hectic, racking up the frequent flyer miles all over the place. But again, it's a very blessed life. I look after my parents well. I spend time with my siblings. My daughter Ayana is 19 years old now. Wow. She's in Barcelona. She's given me the greatest honor of taking up tennis as a profession. She wants to play at Wimbledon. She wants to play in the Olympics. She wants to represent India. And she's just started earning her first WTA points and ranking, which is wonderful. And I'm very, very proud of Ayana. I think every single day I wake up, I want to be the best version of myself for her.
Yeah.
And as much as I have millions of kids through the sports education that I do, Ayana is the one focal reason why I wake up every morning to be the best version of myself, is to be the best dad I can be to her.
So what do you tell her? Because, you know, she's a star kid now, she'll have another sort of pressure.
You can't tell young kids much. You just live. You just live you and they watch. You'll be surprised how much kids watch today. With all the content out there, they're watching everything you're doing. And I think kids also, they don't do as you say, they do as you do. You know, and they're so perceptive, they're so smart. I mean, Ayana's so much more clever than I am, because she's got so much more content coming at her, so much more access through all these digital platforms to research and watch and educate herself through that. And I think that the life of an athlete is one big lifetime of education. You grow every day, you learn every day. If you're smart, you grow every day. And with her taking up tennis has been a big blessing, because it's much easier for me to guide her through tennis than it would be to guide her through shooting or badminton or other sport, let alone if she wanted to be an astronaut. But with Ayana, it's really wonderful to answer her questions, guide her. More than anything, listen. I think the modern generation like their mentors and like their parents and like the people they look up to have a good ear to listen to them. Have a good heart to just give them unconditional love. Have good, big, strong arms to just give them a hug when they need it. And I like teaching her through love rather than, yes, to feeling what she's going through. Because I truly do, right? Because being a tennis player, being an athlete, the path that she's chosen is what I've lived so many lifetimes over. And in that, her coaches, Carlos Gomez, and her fitness trainers, and her mental toughness coaches, and her education coaches, they've all done a phenomenal job with her, because she's also got a 4.3 GPA through academics, and she's also got opportunities to get scholarships through tennis. So navigating the modern world for these youngsters is very tricky. Do we go through academics? Do we do online schooling so we have time for our training and our craft that we want to pursue? Or do we go to a brick and mortar school and just focus on academics, which is the Indian way? And in that, I think that Indian parents are also seeing great opportunities, largely through our cricketers, largely through our Olympic athletes, largely through people like myself, that sport is such a great, viable business opportunity. If you look at how proud your parents would be of you for what you have done, there would be so many young girls who would love to study journalism and love to become you. And I think that's a wonderful thing, you know, for parents to see that, you know, हमारा लड़की भी राफा नदाल का इंटरव्यू किए हैं, या हमारा बेटा भी लिएंडर पेस के साथ फ्रेंच ओपन गया और वहाँ पे इंटरव्यू किए हैं. Those are very proud moments for parents, and I think that's the important part, is to empower our children to be their own success, not to muscle them or push them into what we want them to do. I think nowadays in India, as you rightly said about 10 minutes ago, the opportunity and scope of work, or the different opportunities and platforms for young girls and for boys, has grown so much. And I'm so proud of that. And when it comes back to sport, and my specific sport like tennis or the Olympic sport, I think the focus should be on testing athletes and empowering them with the knowledge and the data of which is the best possible sport, or which is the best possible career decision you can make. And that comes with research and AI and data and feedback to the parents when the children are really, really young. I left home when I was 12. Today that would be late. When the children are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, in the Western world, they're already putting them through multiple sports. Yeah. And I think that's where we can get better with in India.
But you still feel India, now the parents are still changing and encouraging young girls and boys to foray into sports more than 100%. When you were. Yeah.
100%. In the 80s, there were not that many young girls who played on the pro circuits. But nowadays, you look at how beautifully our young women are performing. I'm so proud of each of every one of them. And in that, let's use them as examples of how it can get better. You look at our para athletes.
Absolutely.
Manasi comes to mind. What a great example she is of how she goes there and lives her best life.
Yes.
How inspiring is that to any other abled or specially abled athlete, abled or specially abled human being, to go out there and live your life? I think that is fantastic. When I look at sport, I don't look at what the government can do for sport. I look at what can the sport do for the government to move the GDP of a nation. How can sport be a viable business option where the ROIs of sport are not just about CSR, not just about government handdowns, not just about the top scheme giving one way and getting nothing back. I look at the vehicle of sport, how the business of sport and creating a tribe of young kids who actually come and move like a big wave and move the nation like a big wave. To me, sport, when you look at Olympics that happened in the Western world, whether it was in Australia, whether it was in America, whether it's the last one that happened in Paris, how sport as a movement moves nations. To me, that's when India will really flourish, when we really understand the magnitude of sports business. And we're getting it. We're seeing cricket, we're seeing IPL, we saw Kabaddi for a little while, we've seen all these different leagues that have grown.
Revived.
Hockey's coming around beautifully, and especially women's hockey is coming around so beautifully.
There's league also.
So India's seeing it. I mean, the IPL is such a great example to emulate. Today you talk leagues and corporates want to jump at it.
Yes.
Today you talk leagues and individual entrepreneurs like, yeah, we want to put our product on the merchandise or on the helmets or on the equipment. But when we talk sports education, there's great room for improvement.
And you talked about how sports can, in fact, present that opportunity, and also, you've presented you're an example yourself. You're an icon yourself, and you've crossed 50, and you're still so fit and energetic and passionate, and with the enthusiasm, you still talk about the sport. What really keeps you going? What's behind the stamina?
You're being very naughty, giving away my age. I think it's about the fun of life. It's about being real, being true. I've also been very real with myself when it comes to how I live my life on a day-to-day basis. I don't just preach on what I've learned. I talk about what I do day-to-day. So whether it's my circadian rhythms, whether it's my sleep timings or habits, whether it's the qualitativeness of the sleep, the oxygen levels, the mattress you sleep on, the way you sleep, the timings of your sleep. Oh yeah, very much. I use a lot of artificial intelligence to help me with my day-to-day living, whether it's the wearables, whether it is the AI to live a better quality life. Most people think I dye my hair, I don't. Oh. Most people think that I've had so much of wear and tear in 39 years that maybe I missed Grand Slams for injuries. I've not missed one Grand Slam in 39 years due to injury. In that, the magic of living a quality life in terms of being able to play over 100 Grand Slams over that 40 years without missing one takes a lot of learning. It takes a lot of education, and it takes having the right people around your dining table to discuss lifestyles. So health coaches, longevity coaches, food products that are better for you at different times of your life. So even today, I'm 12 days shy of my 52nd birthday. My food, my diet is so specific. And I thank my family for that. I thank, my people at home, my chef at home, Lama, who looks after me really well. He's a spiritual man. So for me, food is spiritual. It's health.
What diet do you follow?
That's another long conversation for another day. But I try and stay low on carbs. I try and stay low on rice and pasta and potatoes and French fries, which I love. And having Bengali genes on one side and Portuguese genes on the other, I've got a tremendously sweet tooth. So right from Christmas cake to hot cross buns to Easter eggs, right to mishti doi to rasgulla and to just Indian mithai. I mean, Kaju Katli in itself.
Don't say no to it?
No. I have to say no to it, my God.
I was waiting to feel better.
Well, if you don't say no to it, you got to burn it off. So it's going to take double the effort.
Yes,
but as you get older, your metabolism changes, right? So Also, people get very nervous to do their yearly health checkups. I check myself every 3 months.
Yeah, that's important.
And every 3 months, just as we would do a company's return on investment or balance sheets, or
Audits and all.
just as we do audits, let's do a life audit also.
Yes.
You know, there's nothing to be scared about looking at preventive medicine. You know, health is about also preventive medicine, and we live in a country that is so rich in Ayurveda and natural therapies and the natural way of life of yoga and meditation and great ways of life for good health. I think we need to tap into that. I think to be able to...
these diets, like the keto diet or the...
Not in the
different
fads, no. I don't believe in the fads. I think they're like fashion. They're very cyclical.
Yeah.
But what I believe in is in testing my blood work, testing my mineral levels, testing my vitamin levels, testing my metabolism, keeping that up. So my daily lifestyle is a great mix of Indian philosophy, Western science, and also Asian products like ginseng and haldi and things like that, and superfoods. Superfoods is a huge way to stay healthy. And also your meditation and your mental makeup and your happiness and being in the moment. So right now, both our phones have been going off, but they're aside because we're right in the moment here today. This platform could maybe make a difference to one child's life, and that's all that I need to be inspired by. If I can be that vehicle and use my broad shoulders to lift one Indian child up to be the best that they can be for our Tiranga, for our putting India on the global map, that's all the passion I need.
And what's your workout like?
2 hours a day. Sometimes it's Pilates, sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's EMS training with AI and using these electrodes to, speed up my metabolism, shred the food that I've eaten when I've been naughty, or at the same time to build muscle. I'm very, very specific about my day-to-day life, and I have to be, because I thought when I retired from tennis, the 150 flights I would do a year would slow down. It's just gone up. I mean, I flew in this morning at 6 o'clock. I'm flying out tonight at 9 o'clock. And tomorrow's a new day, and Monday's a new day. And I think that to be productive in this modern world, you have to manage your life really well. Because if we really want to be philosophical about it, and we go back in the year, Michelangelo painted one Sistine Chapel, and that was his lifetime's work. When you look at a Ratan Tata, when you look at a Modi ji, when you look at an Obama, when you look at great entrepreneurs, or when you look at a Mother Teresa, or when you look at people who have achieved so much, or Larry Ellison or Elon Musk, or you look at the greats, right? They multitask.
Yeah.
And the ability to work 13-hour days, 14-hour days, means that you have to have a great quality of life. Even if you sleep for 4 hours or 5 hours, the quality of sleep and the timing of sleep with your circadian cycles have to be of a very high quality. So a simple thing like for every hour of sleep you get before 12 a.m. is equivalent to 3 hours of sleep that you get after 12 a.m. And those simple data-driven knowledges through these wearables that we all wear is important to have. Also, at the same time, your return on investment with your work. Just to go and work 13-hour days is not really how success is done. Why can't you work flexi hours and do 3 hours or 4 hours in the day and make it really power-packed and productive? So I'm not here to give a life lesson, just here to share. But what really drives me is to have great champions of life from India. To show that in the next decade, which I humbly believe is India's decade to shine. I feel that we got to live it, we got to share, we got to learn, and we got to grow as a country the way we are doing beautifully right now.
So before I let you go, just one final, if any message you have for the young audience that is looking at you, or even, of course, even the older ones, or all you're inspiring across generations, what would you like to say? Whatever you want to say to them via this platform, via this podcast.
Firstly, very humbled and thank you for the years of support that all of you have given me. It's been through probably 5 or 6 generations that I've played for India and represented you. So thank you very much for all that support. Even when I didn't believe him, even when I struggled or my belief wavered, all the fans were out there for me. Secondly is that dream big. dream really large, and then have the courage and the fire in your belly to follow your dreams. Because if I can, you can. I was not the most talented, I was not the biggest, the strongest. I did not have all the support systems. I did not have the greatest of teams around. But the people I had around were great. And I really pushed them hard, and they pushed me hard to keep growing. And that's how winning is done. If you can handle triumph and disaster and treat these two imposters just the same, that's how winning is done.
Right. But I'm sure you're also winning hearts when you say these things. And thank you so much for this very insightful and this enlightening conversation. And I'm sure that we all got a lot to learn today. And we want to see you continuing to inspire via what you're doing for the youth, what you're doing for the country. And every time when you say the Tiranga, I think we all, at least in Republic, also are always putting the nation first. And we do hope that this conversation also inspires the nationalist in all our viewers. Thank you so much, Leander, for coming to our podcast. Thank you so much.